And her mother and father always made her stay inside the cabin, and she would always see a little bit of light shining through a crack because the cabin was made out of logs. It's like logs, they're all laid one on top of the other. And then
I saw one of those before.
Okay, that's how people used to make their houses a long time ago. And
Sounds sturdy though. What if there's
oh, they're very strong, but they have cracks between the logs. But the logs are really heavy, so it's hard to move them. But they would have cracks between the logs, and they would fill in the cracks with some kind of mud. But sometimes, like, little chips would fall out of the mud, and so this little girl would stay inside the cabin, and her parents would say, "Don't ever go outside. It's dangerous out there. There's all kind of wild animals. And your mother and I have to go out and work in the fields all day long. And you can't come out here because it's too dangerous. So you must stay inside." So she would stay in all by herself all day long. And there was a little crack between the logs where the mud fell out, and the sun would shine through that little crack, and the sun would shine down like she would be playing in the corner of the room with her little toy doll that was made out of corn husks, because that was the only toy she had. Your corn husks are the covering of the ear of corn when it's growing in the field. So children used to take the corn husks, and they would they would make a little bunch on top and tie a knot around so it had a little round part on top, and it looked like a little dolly head. And then the rest of the corn husk would hang down like a dress. So she had a little corn husk dolly.
What was its name?
We still,
I think she called her Matilda.
We're still gonna buy you what I told you. What do you want?
So
Passover?
she
You
would be
got
playing with her little
the
corn husk
matzah, the tucuman.
all by herself, so lonely. But there were, like I said, there's a little crack between the logs, and the sun would shine in, and there would be a little sunbeam would shine right down by her feet where she was playing with her dolly. So one time she went over and she peeked out the crack between the logs to see what was going on out in the real world, and she saw a cute little furry animal out there jumping around in the yard, and she said, "Oh, that's so cute. I wonder what it is." So she looked around the house, and she found a couple little leftover kernels of corn from breakfast time. And she took a couple of those little kernels and she stuck them through the little crack in the logs, and she kept staring out, and pretty soon she saw some little beady eyes peeking in the crack, and some tiny little animal came up and started munching on the corn, and she saw it was a furry little animal with a bushy tail.
It was a rabbit.
And it had a long bushy tail, and it was high up off.
It's a squirrel.
It was high up off the ground where rabbits can't go. It was like about this high. Yeah, it was peeking through the little crack there, and she saw these little beady eyes. And she said, "Oh, that's a cute little thing. I wonder if it's friendly." And she was a little bit nervous because her parents told her animals are very dangerous.
Not all animals.
Well, she didn't know this. So
Parents are mean.
she just, every day then she would try to find, she would even save some of her breakfast when her parents went outside. And she was supposed to finish her breakfast, and she had to eat cornmeal every day for breakfast.
Yes, that's how it's supposed.
Yeah, do you know how you get cornmeal?
I don't really
Because
know what
people
it is.
didn't have like cereal and stuff in those days. So they would raise corn in the field.
Why don't they just cook corn?
Well, that's what they would do. They'd take the corn, they would grind it up,
Orange.
and they would make it into like a flour called cornmeal.
Sounds dry.
Yeah, but they would mix it with water, and sometimes they would like boil it like
It happened 3
a
times.
nice hot cereal, or they would mush it up and fry it, make cornmeal cakes. So that's what she had for breakfast every day, but she would always save a little bit of her cornmeal, and she would stick it over by that crack in the wall. And pretty soon the little furry animal would come up, and she would
I
see
bet it's a squirrel.
the little beady eyes peeking in, and it would gobble up the leftover corn. So then the little animal, one day, after it finished eating, it didn't want to leave, and it stayed there, and it started like scratching. Pretty soon it made the hole bigger. and it popped its little head inside.
Who was it?
Well, she didn't know. She didn't know if the animals were out there. She was afraid it might be a dangerous animal because her parents always told her to watch out for wild animals. But she thought maybe it's gonna bite me, so she jumped far away from that wall.
Squirrels don't bite.
Well, she didn't know.
Oh, it was a squirrel.
So then, the next day, she got some more food out there, but the little animal was even hungrier, so it dug the hole a little bigger, and it stuck its head all the way inside the room. And she looked at it and she thought, that doesn't look so mean. So she went closer, and it just kept staring at her, didn't do anything. So she looked around in the house and she found a few crumbs of leftover rice. She took them over, she held them in her hand right in front. And the little animals start nibbling. And pretty soon she said, it's so cute. So she tried touching it. Nothing happened. She touched it on the nose. The little animal jumped back. It was scared of her. So, but then she gave it a little more food, and it stuck its nose in and started getting more bold. And she walked up and she touched it again. And it didn't jump back that time. Just kind of looked at her, very friendly like. So she went back to the cupboard and she found 3 more little pieces of corn. She took them over and she held them in her hand like that. And the little animal went, gobbled them right up. And it just kept looking like it wanted more. So she didn't have any more, but she went over and she started like that. Giving it a little pat, like that. And the little animal just kind of snuggled up to her face. And they got to be really good friends. So every day,
What she do?
she named him Squirrely, of course.
I thought you knew it was a squirrel.
Because do you know how she knew it was a squirrel? They had one book in the house, and she went, it was an animal book, and she went and she was looking through all the book. And she knew how to read already. Her parents taught her how to read, so she's yeah, they were pretty good parents. They just
You
like
guys
to
think
work
the
all
chicken is ready?
So she looked, and she saw a picture of an animal just like that, and it said squirrel underneath. So she said, I'm going to name him Squirrely. So from then on, the squirrel would come every day. But the hole kept getting bigger, it kept scratching bigger. And one day he jumped right in the room. And he just sat down on her lap. And she started patting him. And they became really good friends. And every day they would get together when the parents weren't around. And from then on, she had a wonderful playmate. They would play and romp all day long.
Did you do?
Did her parents ever find out?
Nope, they never
You wanna go to
knew.
church?
Never knew. Forever and ever, she kept it secret. Even when she was a grown-up lady, she never told her parents.
Was the squirrel still around when she was?
Oh yeah, that kind of squirrel lives a long time.
Like, they live forever.
Yeah.